On August 2, 1990, the Iraqi regime committed one of the most heinous crimes of modern history. By invading Kuwait, the Iraqi regime turned the entire Arab world upside down and inflicted a fatal wound in the heart of a nation already suffering from the consequences of decades of colonial rule. The invasion distracted the Arab world, and indeed the entire world, from the issue of Palestine, which should have remained at the centerpiece of all efforts and attention, and thus presenting the Israeli Zionist entity with the most valuable opportunity, a gift that even Israel could not have dreamed of in its most devious and wildest schemes. As the entire international community completely refuted the invasion, and an unprecedented coalition was set up, placing former foes on one side, Iraq was eventually evicted from Kuwait. But before withdrawing, the regime insisted on inflicting the maximum possible damage. The burning of the Kuwaiti oil wells stand as one of the most brutal crimes in history, not just against Kuwait's economy, but against the environment, as fires continued to burn for 6 months, causing the most devastating environmental catastrophe of all times. But the Iraqi regime did not stop there. It wanted to inflict a deeper wound in the hearts of its Kuwaiti neighbors. On their way out, Iraqi troops captured as many Kuwaiti civilians as they could and brought them along to Iraq. More than 605 prisoners remain up to this day prisoners in Iraq. Most are Kuwaitis, but they also include citizens of 9 other nations. They include young children, women, young men, and very old people, ages ranging from 15 to 80 years old.
Kuwait have said, regardless of the number, although for Kuwaiti society it's a very big number comparing to the percentage of the population, but still we have always said, whether there are 600 or 6,000 or 6 people or 1 person, we will keep doing the same efforts because it is the right of every person to be free, to come back to his family, to his loved ones, and to have the freedom to move.
As a number, Kuwaiti prisoners represent about 0.1% of the small population of Kuwait. There is hardly a citizen of Kuwait who has not had a family member or friend disappear into the Iraqi prison system.
احنا بنتين وهذا اخونا وتوفى الوالد فقدناه يوم كنا وايد صغار. انا مو فاقده بس اخو، انا فاقده ابو، فاقده اخو، فاقده الأسرى، فاقده كل شيء. باختصار فاقدين حياتنا كلها، حياتنا بدونه واقفه، ايامنا كلها نفس الشيء.
Psychologists and sociologists have conducted studies which show that the psychic fabric of the whole nation has broken down. Mothers have lost sons, children have lost parents, students have lost years of education, and lifetime ambitions and goals have been shattered for thousands. In every sense, the Gulf War is not yet over for these people. How can it be over for families who cannot even be sure if their loved ones are dead or alive and in captivity? This clear-cut violation of human rights has continued to this day, nearly 10 years later. The state of Kuwait, particularly under the aegis of the National Committee of the Missing and POWs Affairs, has constantly kept every conceivable channel of communication open and used every means at its disposal to bring the issue to a resolution. Iraq has responded in turn with prevarication, equivocation, self-contradictory statements, and shameless stonewalling. Never has an adequate accounting been given.
The government has been trying very hard to change this issue and politicizing it and making it a political issue. That is our rejection always, that we are only dealing with this issue on a purely humanitarian basis. That's why we insist that we only meet with the Iraqi representatives under the umbrella and the flag of the International Red Cross. Because, as I said previously, this is a respected humanitarian organization that has the trust and support of everybody in the world.
On March 2nd, 1991, the UN passed Resolution 686 and Resolution 687 as part of a broad ceasefire agreement which was accepted by Iraq. These 2 resolutions call upon Iraq to immediately release all Kuwaiti and third country nationals held prisoners and to facilitate their repatriation by extending all cooperation to the International Committee of the Red Cross.
The international community has looked at our cases. They have issued statements, declarations, resolutions on all levels, starting from the highest international community level, that is the Security Council, up to the latest resolution 1284, which calls on Iraq to release the prisoners. The European Parliament also has issued resolutions yearly asking the Iraqi government to release the prisoners. The Arab League, the Islamic Conference, the non-aligned nations, all those organizations have looked into our cases, and they have been convinced by the proofs and justifications and documents that we have presented.
The National Committee for the Missing and POWs Affairs was established on August 15, 1992, and is headed by Sheikh Salam al-Subah and consists of 15 other members. The main objectives of this committee are to achieve the following: the follow-up of the release of all Kuwaiti POWs being held in Iraq against their will, to take necessary actions to ensure the safety and human rights of all the POWs based on international laws in accordance with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other international organizations, provide support and aid to the families of the POWs by fulfilling most of their needs and requirements. On December 17, 1991, the General Assembly of the United Nations voted on a resolution demanding that Iraq release all Kuwaiti and third country POWs and provide information on all past or present detainees living, dead and released. The resolution was passed 155-1 with no abstentions and only Iraq voting against the motion. No detainees were released. From October 16th to 17th, the Tripartite Committee was established with representatives from the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the International Committee of the Red Cross, and Iraq. The members of this committee meet officially in Geneva, Switzerland. They express the purpose to discuss and resolve the POWs issue as per UN Resolution 686 and 687. This was the first series of scheduled meetings. For reasons known only to themselves, the Iraqis boycotted some of the meetings. In September 1994, at long last and for no apparent reason, Iraq did admit to having information about 45 Kuwaiti prisoners. This was a complete and virtual admission that all of the statements about the prisoners over the previous 3.5 years had been lies. Subsequently, 3 more statements have been released, bringing the total number of prisoners they admit to holding as 126. But alas, even this cannot be regarded as real progress. Although the Iraqis admit that they took these 126 people to Iraq, they now claim that they lost track of them during the confusion and uprising in Iraq during the Desert Storm campaign. They proclaim to be searching for them now. The National Committee for the Missing and POWs Affairs has documented proof of the existence of the 605 prisoners. They give irrefutable evidence that Iraq has detained these innocent people. The evidence relies on 3 sources. There are eyewitness reports from released POWs that these individuals were seen and contacted in the Iraqi prison system. There are reports from family members who witnessed their relatives being arrested and forcibly removed by the Iraqi armed forces. Most importantly and most damningly, there are official documents from the Iraqi occupation forces themselves chronicling in detail the arrest, imprisonment and transferring of unaccounted for Kuwaitis in significant number from one detention center to another.